Instant Pot spaghetti sauce is a classic tomato sauce that tastes like it's been simmered all day but comes together in just under an hour. Hey everybody, Kristen here. As someone who suffers from a chronic disease, I believe homemade is best, but it doesn't need to be complicated. I have shared with you before that pasta is my love language, but with pasta you need a good sauce, and my favorite sauce is classic spaghetti sauce. In fact, when I was a kid, I would come home from school and get more excited for my mom's spaghetti sauce simmering on the stove than I would for freshly baked cookies. True story. And while I certainly have no shame in opening a jar of spaghetti sauce from time to time on busy weeknights, homemade always is best. And using our Instant Pot, it's pretty easy to make. So let's get cooking. We're gonna start this sauce by turning our Instant Pot to saute and adding in just a little bit of oil. We're gonna start this sauce by adding in 1 small minced onion to our heated oil, and then we're gonna saute that just for a minute or two, just for our onion to begin to soften. You can certainly skip the step of adding an onion and omit it altogether, but it does add a really nice flavor to our spaghetti sauce. My onion's looking nice and soft, so I'm gonna hit cancel on the Instant Pot. And you know the drill, we have to add a thin liquid and scrape up the brown bits on the bottom of the inner pot to prevent a burn notice. Today, I'm adding in a 1/2 cup of dry red wine. I have a Pinot Noir today. You could use a Merlot or a Cab, whatever you have, whatever you like to drink. Make sure it's a wine that you like to drink. And if you don't drink wine, feel free to use a 1/2 cup of vegetable broth. And then we're gonna scrape, scrape, scrape any of those brown bits off the bottom of our inner pot. I'm also adding in 1.5 cups of vegetable broth. If you didn't use the wine, you would use a total of 2 cups of vegetable broth. Now in my book, you can't have spaghetti sauce without garlic. And I'm adding 3 cloves of fresh garlic today. And to further season the sauce, I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. You can certainly omit the red pepper flakes if you're sensitive to spice, but my daughter who hates spice doesn't even detect this little bit of red pepper flakes. I'm also adding in a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper and 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. Because we're using dried spices in this sauce and it's gonna simmer in our Instant Pot, it's going to taste incredibly rich and fresh, and you can make it using basic pantry staples. Of course, we need to add a little bit of salt to make all those flavors pop. I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of kosher salt today. I really prefer kosher salt as it just dissolves and doesn't make the sauce taste overly salty. It's also important to note that I used low sodium vegetable broth here. So if you did not use low sodium broth, you're gonna wanna cut the salt back to about a 1/2 teaspoon. And finally, for our seasonings, I'm adding in 2 bay leaves. I'm adding in a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. You could use tomato puree or tomato sauce if that's what you have. And this is the time, if you can find San Marzano tomatoes, to use them. Their flavor is supreme, but I promise you this sauce still will be delicious even if you use the store brand. We're gonna give that a gentle stir just to combine. We're gonna dollop 12 ounces of tomato paste over our sauce. The tomato paste is so rich and deep in flavor. It's gonna give this sauce just incredible depth of flavor. And now we need to add in a little bit of sugar, which may sound crazy, but anytime you're working with a lot of tomatoes, they have a high acidity, and a little bit of sugar really goes a long way to tame down some of that acidity. I'm using about a tablespoon of honey today. You could certainly use granulated sugar if that's what you have on hand, and just drizzle or sprinkle the sugar right over your tomato sauce. And finally, we really want to add a little bit of fat to really make our sauce rich and flavorful. I'm adding 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter today because my mom always added butter to the sauce, so that's what I'm using today. But if you want a dairy-free sauce, just add a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Either option works. Pop our lid on our Instant Pot. Make sure our vent knob is pointed towards sealed, And then to set cooking time, we're gonna set to cook on high pressure by hitting the manual or pressure cook button and adjust the time to 25 minutes. After the cooking time has elapsed, let pressure release naturally or you're gonna have a tomato mess all over your kitchen. And you wanna open up your Instant Pot. Oh my word, it smells so good in here. I'm telling you, I really do love spaghetti sauce. Now, you wanna give this a stir, and as you're stirring, you just wanna remove the garlic cloves and the bay leaves. Typically, I don't find the bay leaves until I'm dishing it out, as my family can attest to. I always say they're the lucky winners if they catch the dried bay leaf. Obviously, spaghetti sauce is delicious over pasta. However, I'm gonna grab a hunk of bread here and go in for a dip right now. I'm telling you, this is like one of my all-time favorite snacks. Fresh bread dipped in homemade sauce. Just doesn't get much better than that. This sauce is so incredibly good. It's not overwhelmed with garlic or any spice. It's just perfectly balanced and, oh, incredibly good. You guys are gonna wanna use this sauce on everything, especially in my recipe for Instant Pot lasagna, which I'm gonna share with you in the next video. Until then, happy cooking.